Okay, if we could get everybody to start settling in, this will serve as our 1 minute warning. We do have sign-up sheets still. We still have sign-up sheets out there. If you'd like to speak on any of the propositions, please feel free to do so. All right, look at us. We did better than 1 minute to settle down. So thank you, everyone, for attending this afternoon. We call the Higher Education Committee to order. We have 4 items on the agenda today, and then I'll recognize the Secretary of the Committee, Representative Carter Barrett, for an item before we get started that'll be brief. If no one has an objection, we'll call that our agenda. And without an objection, that's going to be our agenda for today. We'll go ahead, as I said, call this meeting to order and get started. I do want to, at this point, call on Representative Carter Barrett, if you'd press your button so I know what microphone to. 24. He's going to tell us a little bit about this hardware to my immediate right.
So that amazing piece of hardware right there is for the University of North Georgia. Has won the Division II national championship for the women's softball, which is the second time in 5 years, even greater. So UNG's awesome. They're just making tremendous progress on so many fronts. We're honored and thrilled that they have a presence in Forsyth County and North Georgia. They're just too good to be true.
Thank you, Representative, and then thank you, North Georgia, for letting that come down here today. I was fortunate enough it got to stay with me in my office for a few days earlier in the session, and I got the opportunity to talk about, brag about North Georgia, both academically, athletically, and really as a sense of community that they provide up in North Georgia. We're proud of them, as we are all of our institutions in USG and TCSG, and for that matter, they're not ours per se, but our private partners that educate people in post-secondary. So we're happy for them, and we appreciate them loaning that to us again today for display. We'll leave it up there and try to live up to the standards that those ladies set, and wish them all the best in the next year. We have, as I said, 4 items on the agenda. We're going to kind of go out of the batting order just a bit, and I'm going to first call on Senator Jason Estevez for Senate Bill 469 in hopes the senator can set the bar for us. His transaction is his measure is not that long, so we're gonna see how quickly we can do this. And Senator, this is a hearing on it, so just you can tell us about it, and if members, we'll go to them for questions, and if they have additional ones, we'll get to you before we get you back. But with that, Senator, tell us about your proposition.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. This is SB 469 /4FA, and this is a bill, very simple bill, that allows the board of the Georgia 529 plan to increase and set the cap for 529 plans that are administered by this organization. The cap is currently set at $235,000, which is one of the lowest in the country, and Georgia is one of 3 states in the country that actually sets a cap in statute. And the reason that is important is because in the last 20 years, since the establishment of the 529 plan, college tuition has doubled, and the 529 plan cap has stayed the same. That has real impact on Georgians. There are approximately 2,000 Georgian families that have hit or are near hitting that cap, and this increase would allow the board to set the cap along with other states at closer to $500,000, which is where most of the country is at this time. So with that, I think it's pretty straightforward. For those of you who don't know, the 529 plans can be used for college expenses, but they could also be used for any K through 12 for higher education expenses, including technical school as well. I'll entertain any questions, Mr. Chairman. Try to be as brief as I could.
Absolutely. We thank you. Representative Simpson, did you had a light on, then it went away. Are you waving for the time being? Yes. All right. Chairman Perkle. I don't know. Do we need to take special things? Chairman Perkle announced his retirement the other day. I don't know if we should. I do, Chairman Perkle. I want to recognize you, and you've been a great part of this committee, and still will be. You have 9 more days, so get after them.
I do.
You're recognized, Chairman Perkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and we're going to use them effectively for the good people of the state of Georgia. And I should know this answer, but I don't. So I'll ask you the question.
Okay.
Let's say I started establishing a 529 plan when my kid was in first grade, right after he was born. And, all of our kids are brilliant, and they will do great things, and they're going to go great places. And I'm planning on them being a nuclear engineer at Georgia Tech with a PhD. And let's say that's not the path that my child would choose. How do we unwind this? And I should know this, but I don't.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations on your announcement and retirement. The IRS allows the 529 funds to be rolled over into a Roth IRA.
Okay.
So if your child, and I have a third grader and a kindergartner that I hope will
Brilliant,
do amazing
no doubt.
things. But if something were to occur where they didn't use it on education-related expenses, then they would have a great foundation to a retirement fund.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator. I 100% understand, as I also have school-age children that I hope are brilliant and go to overpriced colleges. I understand lifting the cap. When we say a reasonable maximum amount, are there any guardrails on what the board chooses to do now with that reasonable amount? Could it be $1 million? Could they lower it if they decided to do that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And the IRS sets guidelines and provides guidance to the states, which when you look around to what the various states are doing, none are really set above $500,000 to $600,000. And that's because the IRS in private ruling letters has set the guidance at about 7 years times the most expensive institution in your state. In Georgia, that's Emory University. They're about at $80,000 a year. So you can estimate that at most, the board would set the cap at 7 times 80. So about $550,000. I anticipate that to ensure that taxpayers are compliant, the board would set a lower amount than that. But at least it would put us in line with where the rest of the country is.
Who was it? Representative Glaze, you're in Dr. Clark's city.
Thank you, Chairman.
Usually down there. Please, you.
I slipped in a little bit late.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
You're
Thank
recognized.
you, Chairman. So, Senator Estevez, we thank you so much for bringing this bill because it does exactly what we hope it would do, and that is to give those 2,000 students a little bit more room and their parents for saving for college. One of the questions I have is, as we make laws to help retain our students here in the state, can you speak to the opportunity of the mindset of helping to retain our students by increasing this cap and how that impact might help us?
I appreciate that question because while this cap certainly does help the couple thousand families that are close to hitting that cap, there are also over 300,000 families that have opened or close to, not 300, 200, over 200,000 accounts that have been opened and are currently open in Georgia. And that number is increasing dramatically. And that's because there are Georgia families who understand that things are getting more expensive when it relates to their education. And a lot of that money stays here, whether it's paying for K through 12 education and tutoring and other expenses, or helping to pay, as many of you know, Georgia Tech and UGA may provide in-state tuition, but there are a whole lot of other expenses that go along with that. So This fund, this education savings account, would certainly help our families keep their children here, closer to home, and continue to invest in Georgia.
Thank you.
Thank you. You had mentioned, Emory as being the highest at around 80 a year. May I ask you, what is the highest USG institution? What would that? Do you know what that would be?
I do not
the
know that,
amount?
Mr. Chairman. I apologize.
Okay. And I guess I'm trying to. I see where concern is, and I'm sure it's the open-ended. While I think most will agree, we probably need to up it if it's behind times, if you will, if it's an older amount that does not reflect the new college amount. I guess we also don't want to set it where it's just open-ended or somebody else has control over it. I guess thus it'd be interesting to see what the highest USG institution would be, and to see what that amount would be.
Yeah.
And if you have an opportunity, that would be great. Some great information to get.
Yes, and I can certainly get that for you, Mr. Chairman. And that's one of the things that the board is an appointed board. It's I think most of the appointees or the governor's appointees, and I'm sure that giving them the power to look into that and set the appropriate rate would make a lot of sense. Certainly more sense than me trying to come up with a cap based on what we're seeing across the country, because we want to make it specific to Georgia.
We have a new screen up here, and the stylus is not working. I apologize. All right, the senator made it short. Our members are going to question you some more. Representative Moore.
Didn't you just say that the IRS has guidelines and that typically won't go over 600,000? Thank you.
Number 15, is that Chairman Carpenter?
That's me, yes, sir. Thank you very much. So just so we're clear, and I should know about 529 plans, but I do not. So currently, it's $8,000 per that as a married man that I can contribute to my kids' 529 plan. So we're talking about. It's going to be hard to get over 235 just as parents anyway. So you all you're trying to do is open up this plan so that your friends and family can also donate to your kids' education. Is that a fair or business if they want to donate to their employees' kids? But
That's right. It's actually a little bit of both, because right now the cap on an individual donation is $4,000 for a single person, $8,000 for married, but that's not the maximum amount that someone can contribute. That's just the maximum amount that the tax deduction that the state provides is given. So you can contribute above and beyond that, but certainly this would incentivize families and friends to give more to these funds. And we're seeing that more of these accounts being open because people realize instead of a birthday gift, give a gift, instead of a toy, give a gift to the savings account and help that grow. So this can certainly be seen as an incentive for that.
just a quick follow-up, Chairman. So yeah, just a little tidbit. When my son was born, my best friend's parents gave him $1,000 for a 529 plan. So I know it's out there, and I appreciate the legislation.
Thank you.
Senator, thank you very much for doing that. We'll talk to you about amounts, see if there's anything that's right. But I think you've got a good proposition here, and I appreciate you bringing it to us.
Appreciate you.
I don't think we had anybody sign up on the plan or to speak to the bill. No, we don't have any. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Senator Hickman, the chairman of our counter committee, the Senate Higher Education Committee. The senator is going to tell us about his proposition. Senator, do you mind if I'm just going to mention something in case folks are looking. You don't have this in the bill in front of you, but the senator's going to talk to us about some really good things he's doing to this high demand career apprenticeship. As you will recall, earlier in the year there were some questions from a gentleman in the audience about this could be used by folks that weren't supposed to have public benefits. We'll address that in the bill if the bill moves forward, and as that, you'll get a sub on that. So if there's any questions about that again coming today, we're going to address that with the senator. And with that, Senator, tell us about your proposition. I think you've got a good one here.
Proposition. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really appreciate y'all allowing us to be here today. As y'all know, along with me is Mark Peavy with TCSG, and so Mark will very much help me out and help me carry this through this bill. But we're looking at Senate Bill 497. It's LC 49-1826S, and this is a bill that actually came out of our Senate Workforce Development Study Committee last summer. And I was a part of that committee, and we traveled across the state looking at how where we're being short on our workforce. So, Senate, this bill expands the High Demand Career Apprenticeship Program of TCSG, and it also provides priority for students that are 15 to 21 in an apprenticeship program. And not only that, but it also adds a public service, which is a local city and county type part of this program, apprenticeship program. So it ensures that the CTAE, Career Technical and Agricultural Education, aligns with the workforce needs. So let's talk a little bit about about this bill. First of all, we as a body allot $1.25 million a year to this program for TCSG. And so the first part of this bill is we're going to change the name from the High Demand Career Initiative to the High Demand Apprenticeship Program. We felt like the word apprenticeship definitely needed to be in the name of it. And this, of course, will not conflict with the governor's High Demand Career Initiative efforts in House Bill 982, which we passed a few minutes ago in higher education in the Senate. Also, any apprenticeships programs that are in place as of July 1 of 24 will be grandfathered under the old law instead of new law. So let's go a little bit further with it. So what we got, the whole purpose of this is to expand the program. Currently, the program allows an employer to have 5 apprenticeships per year, and those apprenticeships are $10,000 apiece. Those apprenticeship payments do not go to the individual person being employed. It goes to the employer, because as we well know, all y'all in business, you know there's a huge training cost in trying to get people ready for a job. So we're going to change that from 5 apprenticeships per year for $10,000 to 10 apprenticeships per year for $5,000. So the total dollar amount will not change. So there won't be any change in the funding of it at all. It will allow us to expand. We've had a lot of people request, because they're having multiple locations for businesses. They've requested for us to expand this program. So, as I said earlier, we're going to put priority on the apprenticeship program that hire youth aged 15 to 21 or adult education students working on a high school diploma. Also, the payment on this apprenticeship, the $5,000, will be paid in 2 payments. It will be paid at the very first part of the year of $2,500, and then when the apprenticeship program is finished in a year, the other $2,500 will be paid. So that pretty much is the private sector. Now we've added to that a public sector, because we well know that that the government entities, state and local government entities, need an apprenticeship program. So this also directs the TCSG to create a public service apprenticeship program, partner with state and local government opportunities. Same situation. Each state and local government would have 10 apprenticeship programs, and it'd be $5,000 each. And so that would help them develop opportunities tied to completion of high school CTAE, public administration pathway programs. So the priority for this is for state and local governments skilled trade program. This legislation requires an annual TCSG reporting for the program, and it actually has a sunset date of July 1 of 27. At that time, if the General Assembly feels that the program has been successful, and I feel sure it will be, that then it can be reauthorized and continue to fund. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the total funding is $1,250,000 per year. So we would entertain any questions. Mark, you have any comments?
I'm sure he did a fine job.
Okay. I got a good partner.
You have a couple of questions, Senator. Representative Clark, Jasmine Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for bringing this bill. So earlier you said that the contracts are made with the employer and the funds go directly to the employer and not the apprentice. Do you know about, on average, how much the apprentices are are currently getting paid out of these contracts? Like when they're doing the apprenticeship, they're paid apprenticeships, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sure that would be determined by the company. Like, I'm an accountant, and so when we hire internships to come in our program, we normally pay them about 75% of what we would hire a person that's finished college. Right? So that part will be left up to the company itself to pay the apprentice. But this program will then help offset, the company that hires the apprentice will help offset some of those costs that they incur by somebody just sitting next to them, like Mark sitting next to me today, that's just telling me to do the right thing or what I'm doing wrong.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Yes, ma'am.
So we're saying that we're expanding the program by allowing 10 apprentices per year, but we are decreasing the amount per apprentice. Do you foresee that causing like a downstream effect where the apprentices will then be paid even less, like for the same exact program?
I'll be happy to answer that question. Those two numbers, both directions, both reducing the amount of money and increasing the opportunities in terms of number of apprenticeships, came directly from industry feedback. So it's not necessarily a one-for-one that the dollars the company gets equate directly to how much that a particular apprenticeship member is paid. That's really about the cost of the program to them, the cost of having someone administer it, the other costs that they might have in terms of running and managing an apprenticeship program. So I don't think we see that, but specifically the feedback that we received from industry partners was we'll make the trade, I'll put it this way, we'll make the trade that we get less money per apprenticeship, so if we can then have more apprenticeships under the umbrella of the program. And so that's where that feedback is coming directly. We'll certainly keep track of that to see if that's something that would happen, but I don't think we anticipate that.
Yeah, that was going to be my last question is there no tracking system to see how much of the funds that we are giving to these industries, how much of that is being used for training, how much is that, like, normally we would audit things like that, but there's no information about that?
No, there actually is. That's part of the program. We have to see a plan for each individual apprentice as part of it before they get funded, and we fund it in two different tranches. We give them an amount of money to help make sure they start up. They don't get the second amount of money until we see how the first year went. So that's the way that's broken up, and part of that is a reporting piece that we'll look at. So I can get more data on it if you need in the future, but that's the way we handle it. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for bringing this bill as well. My question was, are you all defining high demand fields also from the Department of Labor?
I think we have certainly, one of the reasons, and the Senator mentioned, that the governor has a high demand career initiative bill that's coming through this year too in the legislative cycle. One of the challenges is that there, from a state perspective, is there is no codified example or codified spot where we as a state recognize a high demand career field. The governor's legislation actually came and was born out of the legislation for this bill 3 years ago. It was called High Demand Career Initiative at the time, but there was nowhere in code to point back to say this is the list that we all use. And so these two are actually working in conjunction in the sense that the State Workforce Board will develop that list, and that's what this particular apprenticeship program will follow. Right now, we've used an internal list that was created, but that's again part of the challenge that we don't have one. So that list will that the State Workforce Board develops will guide this program, and they will develop that list in conjunction with the Department of Labor and many other partners across the state. So.
All right, thank you.
We've got a couple more questions, but I want to, at the risk of opening up a can of worms here, that list actually, if you remember when we had the bill with Representative Campbell, that list actually is many lists. So it's a document that we're calling a list, but it's a document that contains lists by region. So just to keep everybody, there's not one statewide list. There's a document that we're calling a list, that has all the regional lists. It's what was in
That would be correct,
the
Mr.
4
Chairman.
layers. Just
That would
we
be
get
correct.
back into the list. I remember we had lists and one list and multiple lists. Representative Glaze.
Thank you so much for bringing the bill. Thank you, Chairman. I want to ask a dumb question, and maybe you can help me understand. We have 18 apprenticeship programs in the state under the unions. Would those apprenticeship programs be open to being part of this PSAP?
Those programs are not currently eligible for the dollars that this body has allocated for that. These are the dollars that we have utilized for this program go to individual companies that are starting their own apprenticeship programs.
Okay. And that's what I thought, but I know it was a dumb question, but my concern was we've got 18 certified USDOL apprenticeship programs that are within the Metro and North Georgia region. And I don't know how we tied them in, but somewhere I think we're missing the opportunity to get skilled workers in without debt inside of those programs. And I just thought I'd bring that to your attention. Maybe we can do something more about that.
Thank you. Representative Stinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your work on the legislation. My comment is merely just something to put out into the atmosphere that as work is ongoing regarding the high demand career initiatives, please take into account the funeral industry. This is a serious statement, just putting it out there. As work continues, you're doing great work, I appreciate it, but as work continues, more conversations are ongoing, please consider that industry because that truly is a high demand area. Okay, thank you.
Representative Fleming. Representative Carter.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, my mic is
Representative
busted.
Carter Barrett.
Thank you, sir. So, just basic math: 1,250,000, 5,000 apiece, so 250 apprenticeships. Basically,
That number's about right. If that's yes.
okay. So, is there a way to tell, like on the website, sort of geographically where they are and what they or will there be a way to sort
We
of
certainly
see?
have a list that is available. I'm not sure off the top of my head if we've got it represented graphically on a geographic map, but we can certainly make sure we share that information.
I think you guys have worked a lot in Forsyth County, like with Lanier Tech and maybe Siemens and some others.
That's probably true, yes.
Okay, so I'm just curious to see sort of how they're dispersed around the state. Thank you.
I would think a lot of that goes back to how aggressive some of the technical schools may be to help implement this program. And I'm sure you from Forsyth County. Yes, I imagine with Forsyth County growing it is, your technical school is very aggressive.
Yeah, yes, sir. I agree with that, Senator, and the company's set up for it. I mean, Siemens happens to be a company that, comes to us from across the pond. I think that's apprenticeship program is more of a thing that was done in European more so than our world. But they've brought that another good thing that Siemens just brings us. I don't see any further questions. Are there any further questions? If not, Senator, I'll give you the last word to finish up here, but I think you've got a good measure here, and we'll have you back early next week and try to get it polished off and going for you.
No, so we appreciate the time. We appreciate watching everybody's face, and I think everybody was listening to us, and we appreciate that. Thank y'all.
We always listen to you, Senator. We always listen to you. We appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Eccles, you want to tell us about 399?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's make sure we're working off the correct copy. You have a proposed committee sub, is that correct? LC 491877S? Okay, very good. This bill encourages the Commissioner of the Technical College System and the Chancellor of the University System to coordinate their efforts to expand credit transfer opportunities between the two systems. The bill requires the commissioner and the chancellor to produce a report every year for the lieutenant governor, the speaker of the house, and report the following things to those people. A list of the courses that have been approved by the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia and the State Board of the Technical College System of Georgia to be transferable between units of the university system and of the technical system. It also requires them to report of those courses, the bachelor's degree programs for which each course has been approved as a prerequisite. And then this is the addition in the sub, is that a summary of other coordination efforts between the two systems and their units, including efforts to align transfer opportunities with the high demand career list established by the State Workforce Development Board. This bill also gives the commissioner the power to certify prior to the start of each semester all courses that have been approved by the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia to be transferable to units of the university system, and to identify the bachelor's programs for which each course has been approved by the board to a degree prerequisite. The need for this bill came about as part of our Senate Workforce Study Committee this summer. There was a constituent of mine actually works for Carroll Daniel Construction in Gainesville, and I believe he had some credit hours at the technical system, but he wanted to go on and get a bachelor's degree, and he was going to have to redo all of those courses. Nothing was going to transfer. So, this is an opportunity for people who've completed coursework to get those credits transferred to the appropriate system. The goal is to provide more opportunities for technical college students to identify four-year degree programs for which some or all of their credits would transfer, and require TCSG and USG to continually coordinate their efforts to expand and promote those opportunities for students. The long-term goal is to create more 2+2 program options where a student can complete a technical program in 2 years and be on track to complete a bachelor's degree in 2 additional years as well. It passed with unanimously out of committee in the Senate and off the Senate floor as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
You have a couple.
All right.
Representative Clark, Jasmine Clark, number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for bringing this bill. I've also heard from several people who are, wanting to take their credits from the technical schools and then apply it toward a different degree and been told, oh, none of these credits transfer. And so I guess the question I have is specifically about the high demand careers, because a lot of times, a lot of those are like these condensed programs that are really just trying to get people, the exact training they need in order to start that career because it's in high demand. And so do you have any idea or anticipate any specific, quote, high demand careers where some of those credits might be able to transfer over? Because I'm just trying to envision.
I do not. So those, if you'll look on page 3 of the bill, section or line 57, a summary of efforts undertaken to align transferable courses and degree completion to the high demand career list developed and approved by the State Workforce Development Board. So that board will create that list, and so I don't know what will be on there.
And then I guess as a follow-up, is the idea that that's what we want to do? So kind of, is that where we're trying to drive this boat toward
I think
high demand, transferable?
I think so. That seems to me like that's the obvious conclusion of that. I think that if we've got these high demand careers, then that means that we need more people working in those careers. So if we can help channel students in that direction, then we fill those workforce needs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Purple.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly agree that more information is generally preferable to less information.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited about the transparency that it looks like with this. So I'm assuming that this is not going to be generally to USG institutions, but will be specific to. For instance, if you were to take a math class at one of our fine technical schools, back in the day, and I don't know, it's been a while since I've been there, but Georgia Tech didn't accept anything less than calculus when you came in. So where another school might accept geometry or trig or algebra as meeting one of the math requirements. So this will be specific, as I understand, to the individual schools and not generic for USG institutions.
Correct.
Okay,
That
you.
is my understanding of that, yes.
All right, thank you.
It's just a statement, not a question. Thank you for first bringing the bill. I think it's really great. I wish you all would push it to go all the way, because so many young people are afraid to even go to school. And so, our jobs as parents and community leaders push them into a trade, which I prefer to push you into a university, but push you into a trade. And once they get in and find out that they can do this thing, then they want to transfer. They want to trade this in for, 4-year degree. So this is a great bill, but it's a good start. Thank you.
Thank you. I might add, too, I don't think I spoke to it, but we had a floor amendment on the bill in the Senate offered by Senator Parent. And in the bill, it only laid out options for university system credits to transfer to technical system. We reversed that and added both options in there so that if a student's been going to university for a couple of years and life happens and they need to get a job, then let's see if there's a path that they can have a technical school credit so that they can have better employment opportunities.
Thank you. Chairman Knight.
Thank you. Senator, to sort of follow up to my friend Chairman Perkle's comment, we want coordination. That's the best for the state and the citizens to understand what will and what will not transfer. But being just frank and upfront, not all courses have the same rigor or the same standards. And again, you said that it was your understanding of that, but I don't want us to get in a situation where we've tried to make something happen that does not recognize that all courses aren't the same standards, aren't taught at the same rigor. Again, the example of maybe Georgia Tech or perhaps a biology class or a science class for somebody who wants to go on to a pre-med type situation. The rigors are much different, and I want us to be cautious to make sure we're not forcing something from that perspective.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your comment. So this bill encourages the two systems to look at what they're offering and what may transfer. So we can't force them to do anything. And I think they're already doing this to a great extent. But this just kind of asks them to report back to us and let us know what they've talked about, but also to make that information known to students so that they know up front what might transfer and what might not transfer. But we're certainly not telling them that if you take Math 1101 at a technical system, I don't even know what the course would be called, but that it has to transfer to Georgia Tech. We're certainly not requiring that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Echols, thank you for a great bill. I just had a question out of curiosity. In Section 3, where it's encouraging agreements to be entered into between USG and local boards of education, do we have a sense of how many local boards of education don't already have agreements with the TCSG institution when it comes to, in particular, addressing the joint enrollment component to, again, ensure that that entire process is as streamlined and as efficient as possible?
Not that I know of.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman Carter.
Thank you, Chairman. So I understand the conversation that's being had. Obviously, we want to make sure that the kid that takes math at the technical school is capable of taking math at the USG school, if you will. But I think it's fair to say that if I'm going to be an English major and I take math at the technical school, that's probably sufficient into my pathway to my degree. I appreciate the legislation.
Thank you.
Any further questions? I don't think we had any speakers on this. I want to, pose this in the form of a question,
Sure.
or just make a comment. I think we're all looking at the same thing, about this to be, more collaborative on this. And I would say this. I know Mark's here. I know there's some people from TCSG here. There's some people from the university system here, and I don't think we do great jobs in both of those. The one of the things that I would like to see us do better, and I think I've heard from members on my physical left and physical right, and on my political left and political right, I think I've heard this from the same people or from all sides, that we don't do a great job with collaboration. And a word that Phil Bryant used to use down in Mississippi, we don't do a good job collaborating while we compete, and I think we can do better. I understand absolutely what Chairman Perkle is talking about. If all math is not created equal, if you want to go to Georgia Tech and be an engineer, a mechanical engineer, or electrical engineer, all math is not created equal. But several years ago, on my first pass through higher ed, I asked a university president, "Does it really matter where you take freshman English?" And it was, "Oh, yes, it's absolutely. We have the best freshman English, at our campus." Some years later, since you can now get credit for freshman English through dual enrollment most anywhere, or through an AP course in high school, I would venture that I was more close to right some years ago about it doesn't really matter where you take freshman English, as long as you get to that point. And to Chairman Knight, who is our chairman of our appropriations committee that funds TCSG, we do run out at Georgia Tech and the University of Georgia and Augusta University, and I think at Georgia Southern now, we're running out of capacity. So if folks want to transfer in, that's how we make the best use of property, plant, and equipment and high-end, instructors. So I appreciate your measure. If anything, between now and when we see you again, if we could encourage them a little harder, whatever that would be, it would be good. But I appreciate you doing that. And isn't all that true? To make it a question. But no, I do. I thank you for doing this. I think we're coming from the right thing. Any further questions for the senator? Well, Senator, we try to see things twice so we can do that. Oh, did you have a question? I'm sorry. I apologize.
I've been
Yes, ma'am.
listening, and I was wondering, are you talking more about courses?
I am not talking about anything specifically, except that the two experts, the chancellor and the commissioner, they know specifically what's going on, and I'm just asking for them to sit down and talk about it in a serious conversation, look and see what you can do for our students, and then report back to us and let us know what you came up with.
Thank you.
Chairman Knight.
Yeah, one last question, Senator. It sounds as if the reason behind this bill is there's not some coordination. Is it that your understanding that there is no coordination that's going on right now, or there are no articulation agreements?
There are between schools, and I know in Hall County, I believe Lanier Tech and Brunel, which is a private school, but also there's some collaboration happening with University of North Georgia as well. So I think this just encourages that to happen on a statewide level, so that all students have the opportunity to have access to that.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm going to look out in the room. I think I still see the folks from TCSG and the university system. I think I am right when I say this, that since Chancellor Perdue, particularly at the university system, has come on board, there's much more of a transparent methodology for you to see on the web when you take an AP course and you take that test and you get a number grade. I think it's a 3, 4, or 5. That you have to make a 5 on that AP math for it to be accepted at Georgia Tech, but you only maybe have to make a 4 at another. But that's really transparent to the students now, I believe. Is there anybody? Yes, I'm seeing the university. I am correct with it. And I think that is new with Chancellor Perdue. So I don't want, anybody to go around here to think that I'm saying that we're not trying.
That's
but
correct.
It's just, and I think what the senator's looking at is, property, plant, and equipment, human capital, the treasure that students are spending to go to college is hard to come by these days, more so than it has been in a while, and we want to make that as valuable as we can. So I appreciate you bringing this, and we'll get you back up just as soon,
Thank you.
soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Moving straight away on in, we've got Senator Williams. If y'all want to entertain him, he used to be a member of the House, and then he went over to the Senate. Do y'all want to hear the senator's bill this out? Okay, Senator, you have a friend up here in Representative Stinson, so we're going to go ahead and invite you up. So we've got Senator Williams is bringing us Senate Bill 385 LC 460717. He's got some guests with him. I'll let him do the introduction.
I brought the professionals with me too, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all. Good to see all of you again, many friends. Bring before you Senate Bill 385 LC number 460717. Okay. This focus is to build our military heritage and foundation to offer additional education pathways for our veterans, both active, reserve, and guard, and their families. GMC is we are already approved to offer a Bachelor of Applied Science degrees online. We're asking that the Assembly allow us to offer additional bachelor's degrees in other subjects. And we'll be glad to take any questions.
Do you want to introduce and tell us who you got with us, or let them?
Caldwell, who's the president of Georgia Military College here, and Jody Yearwood, who's I forget your senior VP. Okay, but he's very knowledgeable, and be glad to answer any questions.
Okay.
For the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. You have Representative Glaze.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill. I have GMC in my 67, in District 67, at the Fairburn campus. So we have many students and many veterans who attend. So is it not correct that this program, if it continues and we support this, that veterans who get a change in MOS and duty station, who are already taking classes at the campus, can now continue their degree online and go on to finish possibly a 4-year degree, even though they may not be in the vicinity or in the area where they started?
That is correct, and that is a great point. Thank you very much.
And thank you so much for bringing this program.
Representative Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And
Oh, I'm sorry, I put the wrong person on. I know I did. You've sat in a different seat, Representative. You've really messed up. You've messed up the chair. You're going to have to get with Representative Glaze. Y'all going to have to get back together on that.
I know.
You're recognized, Dr. Clark. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for bringing this bill. I'm just very curious, which type of bachelor degree programs would you all be interested, or are you all planning to provide if this legislation were to pass?
I'll turn that over to General Caldwell.
Got it.
Dr. Clark, I guess what I'd say is currently, as you know, we give a BAS degree, which is a great pathway for somebody who has a technical degree and wants to pursue a 4-year college. We have all those articulation agreements in place in Georgia so that can occur. And then what we're trying to do now is provide more pathways of opportunities for students. So the BAS would still be there, but we'd be allowed to now also give a BA and a BS, predominantly supporting those who want to pursue things like today. If you want to get a degree in education, a BAS, there's not a pathway to do that, but you could do that through a BA. And so what we're just trying to do is if there's one type of person I'd love to see more come in, those who've served our nation in uniform 2, 3, 4 years, want to go into education, love to have them, and it's challenging and it's hard. We don't make it easy for them. And, so when we built this Global Online Leadership College, what we did, we took and stripped away everything. We made it very accessible. I mean, there's no barriers for entry. There's no admissions requirement. It's open admissions, just like we do with our junior college campuses, ma'am, as you have in your district. So if you want to go there. But this is only online, so they could do the 2 years in Fairburn, and then they could continue with us as they get moved around the world and finish their degree. One of the greatest things we did is, I watched it for 37 years. I watched young men and women who wanted to get a college degree and couldn't, who would start someplace in Georgia. Benning is my home. I mean, I was born there and spent many years down there in my military career. And those men and women, as they leave there, they literally have to start over again,
Right.
or they go to one of, and I don't want to say predatory, but a for-profit kind of online thing that are not regionally accredited. I mean, we're regionally accredited, just like Georgia Tech, University of Georgia, everybody's under SAC COC, we are too. But a lot of these other type organizations aren't, and these young men and women don't understand that. So that when they finish and get that 4-year degree, they don't understand why they can't then later go into a master's program, why it's not transferable.
Gotcha.
So we've built ours so if you get a 4-year BAS degree with us, we're now building the articulation agreements that even though he or she may be in North Dakota or Hawaii or wherever they station him or her next, they can still seamlessly go into a Regents master's program here in the state of Georgia. We've got our first articulation agreement already signed. We're signing another one this Friday with Georgia Southern, and we're working several more with other region schools. And I think that's key because we want to see them continue their educational endeavor here in the state of Georgia. We don't want them to, I don't want to mention all the names of the others that are out there, but there's a lot of them out there that readily cater to and say, we'll help you get your degree, young man or woman. And the sad thing is they get a piece of paper, but I'm not sure they've gotten the education.
Correct. Thank you.
Representative Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My colleagues both asked pretty much my question, so I appreciate the answer to that. And I just wanted to state that I had a GMC in my district in '86 in Stone Mountain that closed down. So I appreciate the opportunity to expand this to more students because they were pretty sad that their campus closed down, and this would give them more opportunity to expand their education. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Waves. Chairman Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I've got one question and maybe a two because I just read the bill and there's one line I want to speak to. But General, you and I have had some conversation, and going back from a point of view of history and GMC and through legislation, what it is, from a governance point of view, it's a unique animal that has sort of, I guess, morphed over the years. And again, a concern in regards to governance because you're governed, by your own board of trustees, but yet it's sort of a hybrid. I mean, obviously before the General Assembly, in some cases asking for money. Maybe not in the online, but I'm still curious about TEG and how that would affect the cost and the budget. But could you speak to governance and where y'all are versus where some of my concerns may be about wanting to look at more governance? If we're going to be expanding in Georgia, how do that governance have a broader concept that has something besides just your local board making decisions? That was my first question.
Well, sir, Chairman, I guess what I would say is on the governance piece, we can obviously always continue to sit down and talk about this more. From our last conversations, the board went back and requested advisory members to be appointed by the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the speaker that are currently serving on our board of trustees. So there's now appointed members that are on the board of trustees that have come from the General Assembly or whomever those three gentlemen or women decide they want to put on our board. to be a part of it. So that came out of one of our last discussions. Took that back to our Board of Trustees, and everybody concurred that that was a very prudent and logical next step to make in that process. As you know, we get about 5% of our funding from the state of Georgia. Then the 95% we have to self-generate and ourselves. And therefore, we do operate very much like a business. And as you mentioned, ma'am, the Stone Mountain campus, I mean, just in the last 3 years, we've shut down, consolidated 6 campuses, removed about 100 full-time positions, saved about $10 million annually in expenses, so that because we have to operate like a very efficient and effective business. So when the regions make a decision that they're going to do something different or their standards are going to change, because we have 54 articulation agreements in the state of Georgia with the regions and private universities and colleges, if they make a decision to change something, we're following it. Because our mission is transfer. When you go to our 2-year junior college in-seat program, every one of those young men and women, we want to see transfer into a 4-year college and university in the state of Georgia. And we have a pretty good success rate with that. And as you know, we're a predominantly black institution too, so a large segment of our young men and women that are in college with us, we're probably, in some cases, perhaps the only real opportunity they had because they couldn't afford to go away to a big college or university someplace, so locally they came, did the small in-seat classes with us. But we're not going to prepare those young men and women to be successful at UGA or Georgia Southern, wherever they may go next, if we're not actually adhering to and ensuring that everything that they're doing, we're following. And so with the articulation agreements we have, they literally, not University of Georgia, but Georgia Southern, all the other 54 we have said, if you get an associate's degree with Georgia Military College, we will accept 100% all the credits associated with that and bring you in your junior year to start at our 4-year institution.
And I appreciate that. And again, I wanted us to just continue our dialogue in regards to governance. But it seems to me that this language is now going from the Bachelor's of Applied Science to just a bachelor's degree, in which the mission, it sounds to me, is changing from, preparing students from a 2-year track to transfer into, one of our universities to having your own bachelor's degree. But that's how I read it. My second question, and again, I hope you and I can continue to talk and have constructive dialogue in regards to governance. I know that's a concern I've had and some others have had, and appreciate what y'all are doing. I mean, it's regardless of concerns of governance. My last question, and I was reading it's on line 14. And as I was reading the legislation today, what is the effect? You're striking military education or military from education. So what is the effect of striking military on 14?
Sir, if I were to want to change that word, if you prefer a word to still be there, it would say leadership.
I'm not sure. That's what I'm asking. I'm not an attorney. I just know that words mean things. So it's a high quality military education.
Because really, sir, what we've been doing and providing is a leadership education. When we built our programs, every course has embedded in it some aspect of leader development. Because we've realized in the workforce and in regular jobs out there today, everybody wants somebody who has leadership qualities, starting first with self-responsibility of yourself, and then the ability to and confidence to take and be responsible for others. So if it was to say something, it would say high-quality leadership there. Because we're not preparing you to be men and women to go serve in uniform, but we are going to teach you about this nation of ours and a love of this country and the sacrifices people have made. We absolutely need to always keep striving to be better tomorrow than we are today. No. That can never stop.
And I agree with that. I was just trying to figure out the words that are on the paper. And if there was a distinction, or historically, if that's military education, and now we're striking that word, if it has significance in change
it's
or
more
mission.
Mental mindset more of anything, because we'll have a lot of people ask us, so you're going to take my young son or daughter and make them military prepared? And our response is, we're going to make them leaders. Okay. That's what we're going to do. And people associate the military with leadership, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to make them leaders.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your work on this legislation. And I do look forward to coming to visit your university after session. Do you have any articulation agreements with Fort Valley State University or Georgia Southwestern State University?
Yes, ma'am, we do. Both of them. And in fact, we're getting ready to sign one with Fort Valley State University here for our BAS graduates to be able to articulate into their master's program. And we'll be signing that the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'd have to check the exact date on the calendar. We're going down there for that signing ceremony.
Very good.
No,
I would like to keep up with that.
all right, man.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we let you know of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Further question, Mr. Chairman? This is to my friend in the Senate. Is it not true, my friend, that my statement earlier on the previous legislation relating to our industry is solely not to make anyone uncomfortable, but just mainly to ensure that everyone knows that our industry is a very important industry as well, and we just want to be considered doing any conversations relating to high demand career initiatives in this state. Is that not true, Mr. Senator?
The lady knows of what she speaks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple questions. I am familiar with your school. I remember when you all went from quarters, I think, to semesters. Are you all still on semesters?
Ma'am, we made a decision to remain with quarters. So we have 5 quarters, 4 during the technically regular school year and then the summer quarter. So
Okay.
5 quarters a year.
So is that going to be an issue when you start to transfer, your students transfer from quarters to semesters?
Man,
to
what
other
we did in
schools?
each of our articulation agreements with those 54 colleges and universities in Georgia, we actually went through and made sure there's language in there. So there's the acknowledgement they're coming from a quarter calculated credit hour system to a semester system.
Okay. A couple more questions, Mr. Chairman. One is that you said that you didn't have any requirements for students to be admitted into your program. Is that correct?
That's correct. If you show up with a GED, we're going to admit you. Now, you may have to take some extra assisting courses, courses to get you up to the standards so you can be successful in regular college courses.
Okay. So what kind of wraparound services? Because I know of kids that weren't necessarily prepared, and a school admitted them. Like Gordon College did that one year where they did this experiment, and it cost them a lot in funding the following year because those students were not successful. Would that apply to you? Because if they come to you and they have a GED, but they're not really ready, and then they've got to take about a year to get ready, how does that affect them payment-wise and getting that degree? Because that means instead of it being a 2 years, a 3 year, instead of a 4 years, a 5 year.
No, yes, ma'am. And that may require them to actually do some additional college time with us. So the real bottom line is we want to ensure when they finish that 2-year degree with us, whether it takes 3 years, and there are cases where it does, that when they do then move on to their 4-year college and university, that they are successful. And to show you that, in 2018, I think is when Chancellor Wrigley and I had met, and he told me, he says, hey, my concern, General, is I need to know that your students, because you bring in a lot of students who perhaps could not have come directly into a Regents system school, are going to be doing well in their junior year. And so they did a study of our students, and he came back and he said, although they're not the ones who are making all the A's and the B's, they're the ones who have the greatest retention and graduation rate. In fact, the term in the university system study said they have the grit because they have overcome tremendous adversities to get to where they are in working with us. And so what we do in our junior college, when you can go to an NC campus, we keep the classes small. We keep the attention on those students pretty tight. You're not going to go into any lecture halls. They don't exist.
Okay, I understand. Okay, but now they're going to be online. And I know for myself personally, I don't really like online because I like to connect with the people in the class and the instructor. So if I'm a person and I'm having problems, what kind of services am I going to get since I'm not going to be in a physical classroom, now I'm going to be online to help me to be successful?
Man, if you don't mind, I'll ask our
fine.
Senior Vice President.
Thank you so much for the question. So to answer that in a couple of different ways, one of the first things you're going to get in wraparound services are what we call graduation coaches. So every one of our online students has an assigned graduation coach, and we pick that term very specifically because that person's job is to know everything they need to know. You asked about billing, financial aid, academic planning and advising, success coaching. That coach is there with them to get them from day one and get them to the graduation. The coaches are constantly, because it's online, we can see how that student is doing day in and day out, week in and week out. So what we do is we call intrusive advising. So when that coach spots a problem with their students and they're getting a little bit off course, we don't wait to the end where they fail. We're engaging with them right up front to get them the services they need. Every one of our online students has free 24/7 tutoring. We contract with that. They can get on a Zoom link. I've never done it personally because I did tutoring in seat, but they can go on, and if they're editing a paper at 2 a.m. and they need help, they get a live tutor, sits there and edits with them over a Zoom. They're ready to go. They get that 24/7. They're not waiting for a service center to open up so that they could come in for that help. We have success coaches institutionally that take them more. If it gets a little bit out of the realm of a graduation coach where they need to phone a friend and get somebody with very specific services that can help that student have challenges that might be happening outside of the classroom, then we can connect them. And we also have, through our partners network, specifically with our military students, we've made alliances with, for instance, the Warrior Alliance, with this partner with the Braves right up here in Atlanta, to come in behind us as well for our military students and bring in those services we can't do. So the health service, the mental service, the job placement. So we try to leverage outside partnerships to wrap around that student to get them to the end. And finally, every one of our faculty, we employ about 450 adjunct faculty and about 13 full-time faculty to run this program. Every one of them in their contract and their training, their professional development, we teach them about the culture of care. And what that means is the best I can tell you is when I started as an undergrad, as a first-generation student, I remember being told, it's in your syllabus, go to your syllabus. Unfortunately, and I know I'm admitting this on open camera, it took me about 9 months to figure out, I didn't know what a syllabus was. Nobody had told me that. So we teach, and that's a line we use in our professional development. If your answer is go to your syllabus, you don't belong teaching these students, because I expect you to tell them, do you know what a syllabus is? Do you know how to read it? Do you know where to find it? Do you know why that's important? So they are all educated, and it's an academic philosophy of culture of care that we are constantly developing them with, because these are first-generation students in many occasions. These are students who education is not their first priority. Sometimes it's competing with third, fourth, and fifth in their life, and we know that we've got to be there with them to help them through it, and we try to meet them where they are. Not all are successful, but if you're not successful, it's not because we didn't give you a handout. We're not gonna hold your hand, but we will walk there with you to make you successful if you'll pay attention to us and listen to us.
Okay, I have 2 more questions, Mr. Chair. I promise they'll be short.
Representative Burnell, we have 6 more people. Let me get to them, and we'll let you have another bite at the apple after. Do you mind?
Oh, well, they were just short questions, but.
Well, I mean, you
yield
just
to
got
you.
some of your colleagues. We're going to run out of time, but I'll leave that up to you. If you want to go and have your folks wait, you decide.
Oh, just one question then. Financial aid, if it takes them longer, that means they have to pay back more money, right?
Because of the way we design our academic programs, the remedial courses, if they place into it, are built into that, so they do get financial funding for that. It won't take them a year. If you place in the bottom of our remedial program, you can get through that in about 2 terms. Most of our students do. And we do a lot with prerequisites so that they're also taking college level credit along with that, so that we're not holding them back. Because if you need, a lot of students are going to place in a math course. So if you're doing mass placement, we're not going to stop you from getting in English, history, that sort of thing, and start to get those credit courses while you're getting remediated in math.
Chairman, oh, excuse me. Help me with the online. Are you asking for the assembly, the General Assembly, to allow different academia learning opportunities? Is that this part of this pie?
Yes, ma'am. Right now, we can do a Bachelor's of Applied Science, which is a great degree, and we have a lot of students in it, but it's limited in the type of degree program you can take. I've got a lot of military spouses right now that are taking Associates of Education, for instance,
Gotcha.
that want to go on and stay with us to get an education degree, and you just can't make a BAS in education. That would need to be a different type of bachelor's degree. So that's what we're asking. We have those 4-year. We're just asking for the ability to do some different subject areas for our students.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to just weigh in a little bit. First, my former seatmate, Senator Williams, good to see you. And then General Caldwell, I think it would be beneficial for the committee to just have some understanding of your background too, which is extraordinarily impressive. He graduated from West Point. He has a master's degree from the Naval War College. He also has a master's degree from the School of Advanced Military Studies. Acronym for that is SAMS. It's basically the JEDIs. It is the most elite of your young, up-and-coming military officers that go to that. He also was trained at Harvard. And so that's really, I think, relevant to having trust and confidence in the leaders that are going to do this. Dan Kaufman, similarly a retired officer, led our efforts at the Georgia Gwinnett College. So we have outstanding people who are helping make this decisions, let alone being a White House fellow, member of the Council on Foreign Relations, et cetera. So I wanted to share that as I think it's important context of we have outstanding leaders that are working on this. In terms of the online aspect, little inside joke, I get bored easily, so among other things, I read the official code of Georgia annotated. I also take online courses. I have found them to be much easier because if you are somebody that struggles with organization or has an intense schedule, which many people in the military do, having it all online, clear as day, that you can access anywhere is a great asset. And you know exactly what you have to do. You know exactly when you have to do it. And I think having in that way will make it really, really accessible to the population that you'd like. And I'll also share for the benefit of the committee, many of your competitors aren't great. And I fully agree with you in terms of your statement that people invest time and money and resources, and then in the end, they don't really have something that helps them very much. And so I'll close with that long kind of prologue of just asking, isn't it true that the group of people that you're trying to help, having it be online is really the best approach that you can have, and this will help both Georgians as well as our military community, because those that are deployed and away from their families, they'll still be able to take these courses, and that's also why quarters are much preferable to semesters, because you can cram that in a smaller period of time. Fair?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
No, sir, I totally concur. I could use the example of a unit that just deployed into Estonia with my son. And they got there in February last year, and they were unable to take any courses in that semester because of the semester. But in April, they were able to link in and take a quarter with us, then another quarter that summer, and then they redeployed back in November. So they would have missed, if it's a semester system, they could not have participated in it and taken any educational courses. Exactly. But because of the way we have built and constructed this, especially stackable, weekly modules that you can do on your own during that week, totally asynchronous. This is the premier way to deliver online education for those who are working, who are in the military, single moms who may have to work. I mean, this is just, it's a, I don't want to call it revolutionary, it's an evolutionary that just needs to be better embraced and taken on, I think, sir. And I think, sir, too, I ran Army education for 3 years as a 3-star general with $1 billion budget. And I literally, everything from initial entry into the United States Army, and developed the first doctorate program the Army offers. So I have a little experience working with accreditation and running the war colleges and those kind of things too.
100%. Thank you, sir.
Representative Glaze.
And I'll just make this last comment. I have students that have attended USG and their GPA went below what it needed to be, and they've had to come back home and get their footing secure. And we always end up at GMC because it's the staple college for us to get our kids back on track when they haven't done as well as they could have in a four-year college. So I've seen GMC make sure the kids were at Kennesaw or at UGA that just got off track. Sometimes normally it's outside distraction, maybe trauma, and they've been able to go back and keep those credits that they got at GMC and move them right back into the four-year college. GMC has been literally a staple and a cornerstone for our students, whether they started at TCSG or USG or their military. It is just something that I hope will continue. This online portal will open the doors. I am looking that we can do more with dual enrollment online as well, because I've got four high schools in that area where we don't have enough kids taking advantage of dual enrollment because of transportation. So hopefully one day we hope that they'll be able to do dual enrollment online, because those kids' minds should not be wasted because they can't get there. So thank you so much. I hope that we will continue to support this program and its expansion.
Representative Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Caldwell, I stopped as I was going through your website and when I was looking at your Corps of Cadets program, and I saw over 91% placement rate over the last 10 years in service academies, and I'm just astounded by that number. So that's not even a question. That's just a zowie statement.
So you're right, sir. I mean, you could get me going really quickly. We have 75 in the program this year that are with us trying to get in one of the 5 service academies. And right now we've got 35 of those 75 that have already received their appointments. We're well on track to get back at about 98% matriculation rate again this year.
Thank you.
Representative Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Senator, this is just clarifying. There is no fiscal cost to the state for this. You simply need the General Assembly's blessing to be able to expand the access to the programs, correct?
That is exactly right.
Excellent.
Thank you. And that's something that I was going to say, that it doesn't cost, no additional cost to the state at all. Thank you.
And that's, and ma'am, that's true because we don't receive FTE first. The funding gives just a bulk funding, about 6% of our overall operating budget for the year the Assembly gives us, but it's not at all associated with the number of students. We could have 1 student or 100 students, and you just have a block of funding that you provide to help assist us in the operations.
Representative Edna Jackson.
Yes. Thank you. I was going to catch you going out. I think this is a very exciting program, but my problem is, and Stinson sort of asked, you have articulation agreements with a number of institutions. I hope that you will consider getting even more, particularly at HBCUs. As you know, I'm from the Savannah area, and you have several institutions in the area. But this is an area where I see where a lot of young people can get involved. I remember when I first came on this as a member of the House, we talked about cutting back on the dual enrollment program, but I think that has been one of the best programs that we have here in the state. So once I get a chance, if you will give me a card, I would like to talk to you about other institutions that are in the area.
Thank you, Representative Jackson. I see no further questions. I don't think we had anybody signed up for this as well. Senator, do you want to close us out with anything before we? And again, we're holding this over till Tuesday because that's what we do with to make sure people can look over it.
I understand.
Look over it twice. So we're not.
I appreciate your indulgence, and thank you for your time, and good to see all of you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I just wish we had more Georgia military colleges over this state. If you ever get the opportunity to visit their campus, I have 2 grandsons in grammar school there in the 6th grade and the 4th grade. But the discipline and everything that these children are taught is just absolutely amazing. And you have an open, welcome invitation anytime.
Thank you, Senator.
We'll put you up, and you'll enjoy the old Capitol. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Senator. Turn this mic off. I meant to turn off the table. That concludes our agenda today. We will meet before next Wednesday. We will meet sometime Tuesday on committee day, so keep a lookout. You'll get that notification tomorrow or Friday. So we'll meet again to address some of these bills and perhaps some other items. If there's no further action before the committee, will stand adjourned without objection. Seeing no